Well, hello there, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is your show. This is where we take a fresh look at ourselves and the world around us. And we just know we're going to have a very, very robust discussion today because we're talking about special needs today. If you work with or you live with a person with special needs, could you share with us the beauty of that, the blessings, even some of the, difficult times? We want to hear everything because it's so important that we learn and we grow. We grow in our faith, we grow in our personal lives, and we grow in how we look at others. This is a great show today, Jerry. I'm Debbie Georgianni with Jerry Usher, and hello, Jerry. And this is, I believe you put this on the calendar. Am I correct?
I very well may have, yeah. We like to touch upon really all aspects of life on this program. And as Debbie said, it's your show to take it away and make it another great one. The phone number is 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. If you have a son or a daughter, maybe even an adult child that still requires your assistance as a loving parent, please give us a call. You can share that. There are people struggling with dealing with people with special needs, and you can inspire, you can uplift them, you can educate them, because like you said, Debbie, there are many beautiful benefits to this, but also it has its challenges too. And there may be people listening who are going, you know what, I can't go on another day. And somebody can call in today and share something that can really help that person just keep on going.
And we also want to know how the world views special needs folks. Okay. I mean, it's very interesting because sometimes we just assume that people are very, encouraging and compassionate and wanting to get to know what has gone on in someone's life. But let's face it, reality hits in, okay? And even like with cancer, for instance, I've talked about this many times, that people tend to run away from things that they don't understand, that they're fearful of, that they think somehow they're going to catch it. It's contagious. I've never heard of cancer being contagious, folks, but yet people run from people with cancer. I can just imagine that also happens with folks who have certain disabilities or special needs that maybe even, they appear physically different. And so people are like, oh, I don't know anything about that. I'm going to stay far away. Has that happened to you in your life? If you're a person with special needs, or if you live with a person, or if you work with, if you're a teacher of special needs kids, tell us about that. 833-288-3986.
Well, you're right on the money, Debbie, and I think we've come a long way in how we perceive those with special needs, how we approach them. I remember when I was in high school, I mentioned this before, and it's not really a special needs thing. I have a birth defect known as club feet. It could be very, very serious, but thankfully, thanks be to God, I got braces and surgeries and so forth. But I was ridiculed a lot for that in school, and I know that those with special needs, and these can be physical, they could be mental, psychological. I know there was a time going back to when I was in high school that there was a lot of, they were given a lot of grief. I think there wasn't that understanding. There wasn't that comfort. There was that fear that you're talking about. And I'd like to hear from anyone who has some sense of how we have evolved as a society, as a culture, to where we are more compassionate, loving, and eager to serve people with special needs.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the thing. We can learn a lot from folks that have been through a lot. Okay. And that's something that I think sometimes we avoid or we overlook, and we just say, oh, they don't have anything to offer me. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Because they bring a different perspective on life. They see things differently, and we can learn and grow. And that's what we're meant to do as Catholic Christians, is to evolve and expand and grow in holiness, grow in love, to expand our hearts, right? Pope Benedict XVI talked about that. That's what made for greatness is, the expanding of our hearts. So folks, this is an interesting conversation. If you've had any encounters, if you live with someone with special needs, if you work with someone with special needs, if you just somebody in your neighborhood, somebody in your community, in your parish, call us and tell us your observation of that, your encounter, your experience. We want to know all of the angles, because that's how we learn and grow. And that's what Take Two is all about. 833-288-3986. And real quickly, we're getting a lot more prayer requests, Jerry, from yesterday's show. Yesterday was whom or what are you praying for? Last night, we got just an abundance. I guess everybody listened to the show or something of that nature, YouTube, on Facebook, and we're getting prayer requests. Please know that we are entering them in, and we are at the Take Two family praying for your needs. Absolutely. So please make sure you know that. I don't want folks waiting for a response from us, because I think it's going to be hard to respond to hundreds.
Indeed, indeed. Our prayers go with you every day, and we rely on your prayers as well. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, getting underway here on this Wednesday on EWTN Radio. The number is 833-288-3986 as we talk about living with, working with, assisting in some way those with special needs. And I think people, parents, Debbie in particular, and those who volunteer and teach people with special needs are very, very heroic in some cases. And I remember at a former parish of mine, there was a young man, I don't know what his age was, but he was severely mentally impaired. And his parents would bring him and the rest of their family to Mass every week. And just the joy on their faces, they would be smiling and beaming, and they would greet everybody. And I'm sure it wasn't all, easy sledding for them all the time, but you could just see in their eyes and on their faces that, God gave them a gift. They viewed their son as a gift from God, a very unique and special individual with the same dignity that we all have. So I would love to hear from parents who have a situation like that.
Well, I want to share something from the other perspective of that, Jerry. We had a person in our parish that we used to, a family that we used to just really admire. And they had a daughter who, she was deprived of oxygen at birth. And so she was very severely impaired. And they were together as a family for many years. And we heard recently that they had split up. The pressure and the stress, and it just got to them. And so the family broke up. And has that happened, and it's so sad, that's why I think we need more support around families, to help them get through it, and we can all learn and grow from this. So that's what this is all about. So if you want to enter into this conversation, do it now. 833-288-3986. The beauty of working with people with special needs. That's our topic today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Father Robert Spitzer.
First of all, you will get a much deeper awareness of your faith, much deeper awareness of the evidence for your faith, explanations of tough theological issues, how science and reason and faith come together, and above all, a deeper awareness of how to practice your faith and how to live it.
Father Spitzer's Universe with Father Robert Spitzer. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
And this is an EWTN Bookmark Brief. I'm Doug Keck. Just had the pleasure of speaking with Michael Pekalik about his book, The Memoirs of St. Peter, a new translation of the Gospel according to Mark, published by Regnery, available through our catalog, EWTNRC.com. So tell us, Michael, what is this, The Memoirs of St. Peter, about, and why did you write it, and why would someone want to read it?
Well, it's about the Gospel of Mark, and the title, Memoirs of St. Peter, comes from one of the fathers of the church, Justin Martyr, who in 150 AD used that phrase to refer to Mark's gospel. It evokes the tradition of the early church that Mark was a kind of scribe or interpreter of St. Peter and wrote down Peter's preaching about Jesus, and that's how his gospel came about.
Michael Pekalik, author of The Memoirs of St. Peter, a new translation of the Gospel according to Mark, published by Regnery, available through our EWTN Religious Catalog. Look for the entire interview coming soon on the network. And this has been an EWTN Bookmark Brief. We appreciate you stopping.
Great to have you with us. Thanks for taking part of your day out to be with Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. The show team, Michael, Jeff, and Ryan, are in place today. Thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. And another way that you can catch not only Take Two, but also all of EWTN's programming is available on smart speakers like Amazon Echo, Google Assistant, and others. For example, you can listen to EWTN Radio just by saying, Alexa, ask EWTN to play Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. So if you're one of those growing number of people who have the smart speakers, look for Take Two and all the other EWTN programs.
We have full phone lines here on Take Two. That's no surprise. We almost always do every show. So please, when a line becomes open, please make sure you start dialing very quickly at 833-288-3986. That's the number to call to get on this show. We're talking about working with or living with folks with special needs. And we have I just love how the Take Two family steps up, Jerry, because we have folks that work with special needs, live with special needs folks, and also an occupational therapist is coming on board. I mean, we've got everything, and this is what we wanted. We wanted a really robust discussion on this because it can help us. We can grow and learn. So Susan is up first in Youngstown, Ohio. Living Bread Radio is the way you're listening, Susan, and you are a first-time caller. Welcome to Take Two.
Oh, thanks so much. How are you today?
Doing well, Susan. How are you?
Oh, very good. I'm on my way to work, and I heard the topic, and I just felt kind of compelled to call because this is something that I have struggled with in the past. I don't have anybody in my family in particular, but just people that I have run into, children of friends, kids in school, and it was always, I'm somebody who's very uncomfortable when I'm out of my zone, and I'm very outgoing, but, special needs is just something that kind of threw a wrench into me as far as being social. So I figured out a little trick, and I thought I would share it for maybe some other people that were kind of in my boat. I found that if parents of special needs kids love to talk about their kids, and if you ask them the simple question of what level is your child on, like I have both of my friends happen to have children in their 30s. And one of them is an 8-year-old level as far as communication, and the other one is like a teenager, maybe like 12, 13 years old. And once I found that out, it was so easy to communicate with them on their level and talk about things or show them things that would interest them and include them in the conversations. So that's kind of my tip for anybody who might be uncomfortable, approaching, speaking to, or knowing what to do around a special needs person.
Yeah, Susan, that is absolutely, I think, right on the money. And, it's such an important point. I think teachers have a great knack at doing this, and just knowing, like you said, kind of where the person is, because it's they're not all on one level. It's not one language, so to speak, fits all. But, knowing, how to communicate to them and communicating to them, in a very real and frank way at whatever level they are. Just seems to me that it is going to enhance their lives a whole lot more. And Debbie, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I like what Susan said.
I think it's fabulous, Susan. I was been in religious education for many years, and then prior to that, I was in the hospitality industry, and we were in constant contact with folks with additional needs, special needs. And I used to share with our catechists and volunteers, and then when I was in the hotel industry with the staff, ask questions. Don't avoid it, don't overlook it, don't pretend like it's not there. Meaning the I'm talking about when I say pretend like it's not there, meaning the obvious, whatever the impairment or disability is. Like I used to see people all the time that would pretend like people didn't come in a wheelchair. And it's like the person is in a wheelchair. You need to move the chairs to help them through the aisleway. Don't pretend like the wheelchair's not there. The wheelchair's there. And so the more we inquire and ask and see how we can be of service, I think people are very receptive to that. They're very open to that. But if we avoid the obvious, or we avoid how somebody can't lift the spoon or something and, raise it to their mouth to eat or something of that nature, or they fumble with stuff, I think it's really a disrespect, because we wouldn't want that, right? If we had something going on.
I agree.
Yeah. So I'm all in favor of that, Susan. I think that's very healthy. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, there you go. It was perfect that you called, perfect that you led off this conversation. I think it's wonderful. But I just want to go back to the wheelchair thing. Have both of you, real quickly before you leave, Susan, have you noticed it too, Jerry, that a lot of people try to they try to pretend like the wheelchair isn't there? That it blows my mind. It's like, first of all, I think a person who is in a wheelchair, first of all, they're very strong. for them to be in a wheelchair. I tried to move a wheelchair one time. I tried to sit in a wheelchair in the hospital and tried to move it. It's tough. You have to be physically strong. So that person is physically strong. They're mentally, very, really, they have that intentional, that real strong purpose. I mean, it takes a lot to be in a wheelchair. What do you both say real quickly?
Well, it wasn't a wheelchair incident necessarily, but I have a stepson who lost his arm in the military. And one thing that came up was that, I won't say who, but a former vice president was meeting with the soldiers, and they went to shake hands with all of them. Well, my son didn't have a right hand. So he was handing them coins, vice presidential coins that he would give out to all the soldiers when he shook their hand. Well, he didn't know what to do with my son, so he just put the coin back in his pocket and moved on. And I was just like horrified with that. I'm like, well, just ask, can I shake your left hand? Or it's just a really, odd circumstance, and it made him feel bad, But,
Right. Well, and the other thing too is
ask questions.
Right.
Yep.
I've always said this about burn victims. I think it's really sad when people don't go up and ask, a person who had burn victims that, maybe what has happened to them, or if they don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but at least acknowledge, because I think, they go out into the world and it's so obvious that they have been burned, on their face or on their body. But people avoid them. We used to see it in the hotel industry all the time. People would literally almost run away. There was a guy that used to come in all the time. He was 70% burned over his whole body. He basically had no nose. He had almost a kind of a fake mouth, fake ears, and nobody would go near him. I finally sat down and had dinner with him. I said, "Can I join you for dinner?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, "Can I ask you what happened?" And he told me the whole story. And he says, "Why don't people ask?" I don't know. Maybe it's too intrusive. Who knows? But thank you, Susan, so very much. What do you think, Jerry? Do you think asking too many questions is too intrusive?
I don't know how many is too many. I think doing what you did, it sounds like a very worthwhile thing. You're recognizing his dignity and his worth, and people sometimes want to share what happened to them because they're walking around and people are, like you said, darting away from them and not coming up to them and socializing with them, and they're probably thinking, am I some kind of a weirdo? Am I some kind of an outcast? And so you actually just validate their personhood, if nothing else, by doing what you did. So, all right, Susan, thank you so much.
Thanks,
in Youngstown.
Susan.
Got a lot of calls to get to, including Stacy in Youngville, Louisiana, next, listening on Christ Our King Radio, and another first-time caller. Hi, Stacy. Good to have you with us.
Hello. How are y'all?
Hi, Stacy.
Doing pretty well, thanks.
Hey. Yes. Hey. Yes, I'm calling. I, heard what y'all were talking about today. I do listen to y'all. I try to listen to y'all every day when I can, and y'all have awesome topics. I am a mom of a special needs son. I want to say child, but he's 21. He turned 21 last month on the 4th. He has cerebral palsy. He's in a wheelchair. He has pretty much total assistance with everything. He has a feeding tube, and he does eat by mouth, but it's mostly chopped food. So everything is just like you're still having a baby, really. And the experience I had, the first 3 years were pretty rough. We've been married for 25 years, and the first 3 years were rough. It was lack of oxygen at birth causing brain damage. He was in the NICU for 9 days, seizures and all that stuff. So it was everything was unexpected. The birth, he was stuck in the birth canal for like 2 days, and had to do emergency C-section. So pretty much from the very beginning, it was so unexpected. It was, I didn't know what, me and my husband didn't know what to do at the first, and getting educated and getting people. At 2 months old, he started therapy, physical therapy, speech, OT, all that stuff. The school system picked him up at 3 years old, and he went to school. So now he's actually, his last year of high school is this year. So, I've learned tons of information. I've met tons of people, nurses, therapists, doctors. It took me a long time to really accept it, and maybe 10 years to even accept the doctor, we were blaming everybody, in the beginning. And it was hard, very hard. And I still, sometimes I have flashbacks and kind of, bad memories of his birth, and I can still sometimes smell the soap and what the soap smelled like when he was in the ICU, because we'd have to go see him, and just stuff like that. But and what Jerry was talking about earlier with going to church, we take them to church whenever we can. I do have help, nurses and direct workers that help me out a little bit too. So I've always had, since 2004, I've always had nursing, and it's over 10 years. That helps me, so me and my husband can go do things or go do errands or whatever. So, but we take him to church whenever we can, and he just loves it. He's happy. He's just, the angels are all around him, and I just feel it just, my heart is just bursting when I see him that way in church. It's just amazing that he's to us, and we've learned just a lot of faith. I've learned, and a lot of strength. As a special needs mom, and I've learned just one day at a time, pretty much. It's what you have to do. At this point, I'm okay with everything. As he's gotten older, at 18 and 19, it's a little bit harder, especially taking him out to places. I don't really do that a whole lot too much. He's still in diapers, so you really can't take him out too long with, a certain care and all that. So, but he just loves. He's always happy. So I'm happy. I'm happy. And like routine, and but I just want to call in to let new parents know that it's hard, but if you have a support, family and friend support, and I even have Facebook family friend support, and it's just my faith has gotten stronger, and I rely on God and Mary, and I say novenas all the time, and down here at Cajun Country, we have a Charlene Reshore. She's the Cajun saint that we've prayed to, and I say her novena with the grave site 3 times in Reshore, Louisiana. And she kind of, I think, is on the verge of getting, beatified, but I'm not sure all the statistics. But she did have miracles, So we've took them to a grave site a few times and said rosaries, and I still pray. It's been since 2002 we started doing this, and I still pray every day. And to her.
Stacy, let me ask you this, because CP typically is like a motor disability, if I understand it correctly. Because two of my catechists that worked in the ministry, they were in wheelchairs because they, their muscles and everything were stiff. They're very stiff. So let me ask you this question: do you find it more comforting that we do talk about it, the specifics of it? Or, how do you feel living with your beautiful son who has it, but he also has, the oxygen deprivation at birth and everything? Do you feel it's more healing for you and healthy for you if we talk about it more? Or would you prefer that we just, kind of just make our own guesses on what's going on with your 21-year-old son? I'm curious, as a parent, how do you feel?
No, I feel, I think that more should become, it should come more to the spotlight, I guess you could say, because, I try to show him off, on Facebook, or try to brag about him sometimes about, things he's done, or just pictures or whatever. But as long as it's positive, I guess you could say. And I'm okay with it. I was kind of going out in the public in the beginning. It was kind of embarrassing, but I don't feel that way anymore. This is my life, and I feel, that's just what he is. It's nothing I can change it, but I don't, it's as far as seeing, stories, sometimes I think that it's a Facebook page called Uplift, and it's a story just the other day with Justin Timberlake had granted a boy with cerebral palsy, granted him a van that he needed, what him and his family needed, and it was just a beautiful story. So it's stuff like that really, helps me, encourages me to keep going and keep moving, because every day I have to get up and I do the same thing. So it's just, it encourages me when I see good stories and see people talking good about things.
Sure.
Well,
Stacy, you made a comment just a minute ago. You said, well, this is my life. And you know what? He's your son. And as a parent, this is the life that God saw fit for you and your husband to have. And it could be very difficult at times. But see, we, from the outside, we can look at someone like your son and we say, oh, there's something wrong with him. But you said he's always so happy, especially when he goes to church. He doesn't realize that he's different, perhaps, so it's we are the ones who have to come to a better understanding, I believe, and an appreciation of the fact, of course, that he and all people are created in God's image and likeness, and this is all just very temporal. When we get to heaven and all into eternity, we're all going to be equal and so forth. So that hopefully helps keep you going as well. So thank you, Stacy. You hear the music. We got to pause just for a quick second here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about living or working with people who have special needs. If you'd like to join us, please call in.
The Holy Father's prayer intention for the month of December is for a life of prayer, that our personal relationship with Jesus Christ be nourished by the Word of God and a life of prayer.
Hi, Take Two family. Jerry and I are so excited about the launch of Stand Tall, our new ministry designed just for you. Please visit standtalltoday.com and take a look at all the resources, devotionals, and services we have provided to assist you on your spiritual journey. Feeling stuck? Or maybe you feel like you're moving backwards? Let us help you take another look at life and make great strides toward being the person both you and God want you to be. Learn more at standtalltoday.com.
60 Seconds with Archbishop Fulton Sheen.
Now, in order to understand the knowledge of God, you must make a distinction between foreknowledge and predetermination. The two are not identical. God, indeed, does foreknow everything, but he does not predetermine us independently of our will and our merits. Just suppose that you knew the stock market very well. And because of your superior knowledge of business conditions, you said that such and such a stock within 6 months would be selling 10 points higher than it is now. Suppose 6 months later it actually sold 10 points higher. Would you have predetermined and caused it to be 10 points higher? Although you foreknew it. There were other influences, were there not, besides your superior knowledge?
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
I'm Gloria Purvis.
I'm Monsignor Charles Pope. And I'm Deacon Harold. Tomorrow, the Morning Glory team continues to decode the book of Leviticus.
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We're talking about special needs today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We've had some great calls. Susan from Youngstown, Ohio, and then Stacy. Stacy, thank you so much for your beautiful call, and God bless you and your wonderful son, your 21-year-old son. Wow, 21 years. It's amazing. My son's turning 31 this month. It's amazing how these kids, it's fast, Jerry. It goes really fast. I'm just telling you, when you have kids, you blink your eyes and then there they are. They're grown up. Okay, let's hear what Bernadette has to say in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Also a first-time caller. Hi, Bernadette. Welcome.
Hello. I'm so excited to hear y'all.
Oh, thanks.
I'm an occupational therapist, and I have worked with children the entire time, and I've been working for 40 years. And I've always had children with disabilities. I used to work in the school systems, and then when we moved here, I started doing home visits with children from 0 to 3. So it's early intervention. And children are so joyful. And I always tell everybody there is not a better career for anybody that I think of that I have, because I can be down in the dumps or something, and then I go to work, and the children, they don't care if you're down in the dumps. They want you to act like you always do, you know, and it's wonderful. And I just had to call in. I just left a home visit, and I heard y'all's show, and I said, I have got to call them. I've never called y'all or anybody else on the radio before. But I wanted y'all to know that you learn so much from people, and especially children, when they have these disabilities. And in our profession, we teach them adaptive skills and stuff like that. And it's so fun to watch them figure out things and feel proud about when they're finished something. And it's just a great opportunity for people to be with such a variety of people.
That is beautiful. You have learned so much, Bernadette. I'm sure every single day is just like a new educational experience for you when you encounter these wonderful children. Let me ask you this, because I'm really just kind of focused on this. I just want to make sure I'm not overstepping. So if you heard the beginning of the show, do you feel for those of us that aren't in relationship or encountering special needs kids, whether we work with them or or they live in our home, so we just occasionally come upon a person who's in a wheelchair or in crutches, or maybe has lost an arm or a leg or both legs, or something of that nature. What do you think what's the best advice you can give us? I mean, I've always said, not to be nosy, not to be intrusive, but to maybe just inquire so that you can start to talk about it. Is that too much? Are children open about talking about their disabilities? Or is it better just to, you don't want to stare at them. You don't want to ignore them. What's the best way we can act when we are around folks that have different special needs?
Well, when they're with their parents, the parents are very sensitive about people ignoring them. And, I used to have a parent I had years ago. Her son reminded me of your other caller. She would say, people just stare at us. They don't talk to us. They just stare. And it used to just bother her so much. And a lot of the parents become isolated because all their other friends, their children are mastering all these skills and all this stuff. And so they always feel like they're on the outside. And so the children themselves, if they can talk, they'll tell you. Because other kids will say, why do you have that on your arm, or why is your leg like that, or why are you in a wheelchair? And they'll ask them that. But and they'll just answer them, but the parents, I think it would help them more if people didn't just stare at them, maybe go up and say, oh, he's so cute, like you would do any other child. Look at how adorable he is, look at that, you just humanize it. These people, they feel so isolated is what I would say.
Right.
Yeah,
that was my experience too. I felt that in the parish work. Jerry?
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of staring that goes on, and Bernadette, thank you for calling into the program. I would just say, people may stare at someone with special needs because they don't understand, or they're a little bit uncomfortable or afraid of what they're encountering, but they're really gazing upon a masterpiece of God. And I think that's so important for us to keep in mind. A book that came to my attention, or came to my memory here just a minute ago, I think it was written about 8 years ago. It's Mom, Do I Have Special Knees? Knees.
Okay.
And celebrating our special needs child, and it's by Greg and Megan Dean. And so they took a little play on words there, special needs, and it's the question coming from their son, Mom, do I have special knees? Mm-hmm. So,
wow,
yeah.
Interesting. Well, Bernadette, thank you so much. And thank you for your fine work as being an occupational therapist. Yeah. You're doing such great work, and your contribution to this discussion today has really helped us to get a better understanding. So thank you. God bless you. And I love Hilton Head, South Carolina. So just beautiful area of the country. So God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Jerry?
I wanted to mention an email from our regular devoted listener, Karen. She says, people with special needs are powerful in that they can offer up their suffering to God for everyone else. They are here and in their predicament because we really, all in caps, really need them. So think about that for a moment. the redemptive suffering. And
Yeah, say that again. That's interesting.
yeah, she says people with special needs are powerful and they can offer it up to God for everyone else. They're here and in their predicament because we really need them. And when you think about that, it's true. It can draw out the best of us, Debbie, or the worst of us, really, as we've already talked about on the show today.
I was thinking real quickly, but before we go on to our next caller, I was thinking back to that gentleman that I had dinner with who was burned over 70% of his body. He made the comment to me during the course of the dinner. He said, I've been coming here to this hotel for dinner every single week, and you're the first person that's ever had a conversation with me. And
wow.
and he said, it happens to me all the time. And I said, well, why do you go out and, have dinner and put yourself through this? He goes, I need to be social. I need to get out there and see other people, or I won't make it. So he needed to be around people, even though they were going to ignore him, walk away from him, stare at him. He needed to be around people. See, I wonder, I've often think back, that's 25 years ago, but I wonder, what happened to that gentleman? But see, I don't know. I think this really helps us to have these conversations, Jerry. I'm glad we're doing this show today.
Indeed, indeed. Let's move on to Joanna, who is in Nampa, Idaho. Beautiful part of the country. A first-time caller listening on the EWTN app. Hi, Joanna. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
When I heard that you were having this topic yesterday, it caught my ear right away. My oldest daughter is, she not at this very moment, but she's going back to it. She works with special needs adults. Mm-hmm. And that's been something that's been in her heart since she was a child.
Wow.
She's just I'm sorry. She's a very compassionate person. And I remember her being in elementary school in fifth grade, and they were dropping off the kids off the special needs bus. And she said, one day I'm going to work with those people. I'm going to help them.
Wow.
Wow. This is just something that's always cold her heart. I remember one day she brought home a picture, which she's not supposed to do, of course, but she had a picture of, she calls them her boys. And it was her group that she works with. And she said, Mom, aren't my boys handsome?
Oh,
and, they're if anybody looking at them, you just see special needs people. But in her heart, in her eyes, she was just seeing some handsome boys. And, we need to pray for people who have the gift of working with them. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's got it. I know I couldn't do it. I don't have that gift. I don't have that heart to do that. So those people that work in that profession need extra prayers.
Yeah. May I ask you a question? You're getting very emotional talking about your daughter. May I just zero in on that emotion for a moment? Is that emotion coming from, because as you speak about your daughter and her outlook and her intention and her desire, are you tapping into the divine there? Because I sense very closely that you are getting filled with emotion because your daughter is being very Christ-like.
She is. She's always had a very compassionate heart. I remember her being an infant, and there was a TV show on, and there was a child crying on the TV, and she stopped playing and looked up, and she started crying with the child because she couldn't. She felt for that child.
Wow.
Crying, and so that was my first look at her heart that way.
And what is your daughter?
Be very stern.
Yeah. What is your daughter's first name? May I ask?
Her name is Jocelyn.
Beautiful, beautiful. I put your whole family in our book, and we're going to pray that
God bless you. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're going to pray that
we could really use the prayers.
yeah, but also that the angels help her in the ministry work she's doing. She's doing great ministry work. And so her guardian angels, a lot of times, we each get one guardian angel, right? But if we're given a much bigger ministry work, like it's often been said that bishops and archbishops and cardinals, they may have more than one angel. Well, depending on your ministry work, you may have more than one angel helping you. Well, we're going to pray to the angels that they surround her and her beautiful work.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you guys for your show. I have my Alexa on all the time, or my app on all the time. I just love your station. It has opened my heart so much more. It's made me a better Catholic. I really have. Thank you guys for your work and your ministry as well.
Well, thank you, Joanna. A comment like that goes a long way for us, gives us a great kind of affirmation or confirmation that we are doing God's work, and that includes everybody at EWTN. So thank you so much for listening and for calling from beautiful Nampa, Idaho. We appreciate that. Yeah, it's a beautiful story she shared, Debbie, about her daughter from the youngest age had this gift of compassion, this gift of empathy. So often that comes to us later in life as a result of our own suffering. The things that we go through help to kind of strip us of our selfishness and become more other-focused, if you will. But other people are given these incredible gifts by God at a very, very young age. I think it's absolutely beautiful. This is all, we hear about the saints, who do wonderful things as, children and all their lives, so this is kind of reminiscent of that for me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for all the calls today and the comments that are coming in. Remember, you do not have to be Catholic to call in. You're part of the Take Two family. If you're listening to Take Two, we just love you. So please call this number 833-288-3986. And if you're outside of North America, we have international listeners all the time. All you have to do is dial country code 1-205-271 2985 and call in from, the Philippines or the UK or Africa. We have a lot of folks from Africa that listen to our show, which we're so pleased about. Italy. We have folks from Italy and Ireland. Oh, our friends from Ireland. Come on, you guys, call in. This is a really great discussion today, and I think we're learning a lot.
Right back to your calls in a moment. I want to make a note of another program that you will find very, very impactful in your life, I believe. And that is Beyond Damascus. Beyond Damascus, Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time with Dan DeMatte and Aaron Richards. And that is, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Young adult Catholics share their stories of life within the Catholic Church and the blessings the faith brings. Excuse me, I got a little crackling throat here. But Beyond Damascus, Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on most of these same EWTN stations.
Okay, we are getting more calls coming in very rapidly, actually, which is great. So we'll move back to the phones now with Mark. Mark is up next in Carroll, Iowa. I hope I got that correct. Your first time caller as well. Hope I got your city correct, Mark. Welcome.
You got it just perfect. And hello to the Take Two family. And I'll be very brief with this, as brief as I can. It's hard not to gush over my 25-year-old autistic daughter. Her name is Emily. And I have some advice maybe for some younger parents out there who are just now, finding out what their challenges that lie ahead. These are just some things that were shared with me many years ago. Emily was diagnosed when she was just 2, so we've been at this a long time. But we were told early by well-intended people that, you've heard it before, God only gives us what we can stand, or, gives special people to special parents, and that she's going to be a gift and all of this stuff. Boy, we didn't want to hear that early on. We really bristled, when we heard that, because, we knew just how difficult things were going to be. And then again, at the same time, it took a lot of time, but we quickly understood what the gift was, and that it's this perfect daughter. They say that no one's perfect, and I beg to differ, because I have a perfect daughter, perfect in every single way. And again, I'm going to try not to gush, but she truly is a gift to us and has been a gift to us. But it just has to be well-timed before you really truly understand, what that gift is. The next thing is I really encourage young parents to stay married. Please stay married. It takes two. It takes a father. It takes a mother. And I'm going to give 90% of the credit of my daughter's success to her mother. Of course, there's some things that guys just can't do for daughters, where, my wife certainly did far more than I ever could. So I'll give a lot of the credit to my wife. The next thing is, and we were told this, I'm sharing this. This isn't a Mark original, but it's pray as if everything depends on God. but work as if everything depends on you. And God empowers us to stay diligent in our work, that the extra needs require. But, pray as if everything depends on God, but work as if everything depends on you. And then almost finally is we have an angel living right across the hall from us. She lives at home with us and probably will until our days are numbered. But she is truly an angel. And I'm going to share this with you because Emily has an aura. You can see it. People who are open to it, we've had many people tell us, I see it. And they volunteer it. It's not like we say, hey, look for it. People come to us and they say, she has an aura. And she just has this effervescent, godly glow around her. And it's something that everybody wants to be close to and everybody wants to be a part of. And finally, I can't gush over Emily without saying a quick word about her older sister, Megan, just 18 months older than her. Dr. Megan is a pediatric psychologist working in Los Angeles. And when she was about 12 years old, she says, I'm going to fix this. And she has dedicated her life to diagnosing and treating children on the autism spectrum and with other developmental disorders. So she's also a blessing to us and a blessing to many, many, many families who credit their child's success with Dr. Megan. So that's it, a little bit about Emily and Megan, and thank you for having the show, and God bless you for what you do.
Well, Mark, first of all, I want to thank you. It says on our screen here that you are a founding board member of KYMJ 103.1 in the Carroll, Iowa area. So thank you so much for doing that. Without the stations, we would have no Take Two or any other Catholic radio show on EWTN. But what really I picked up on was really the last part you shared, and that is, how so much good is coming out of this situation in your life certainly through Emily. She is a great gift and a great blessing and is going to touch a lot of lives. But here you have her older sister who now has sort of taken it upon herself as a life's mission to try and come up with some sort of a cure, a treatment for autism. And as you said, so many other families are being blessed by that. So, Debbie, this is awesome. We have to look at the good that God is going to bring out of situations, and we can really see it coming out here.
Absolutely. And I was just, as you were speaking, Mark, I was thinking about that family that I talked about earlier who we watched for many years at Mass. And then we found out later that they did split up because the pressure and the stress, and it just was too much. But you are encouraging folks, stay together. You need a mom in the home. You need a dad in the home. You need that family support. So many things you were saying. Her older sister, Emily's older sister, saying, I'm going to fix this, and going out and being a doctor. I mean, when you started off saying, I'm going to gush a little, and you know what? You're awesome. You keep gushing about your family. You have an amazing family, and it starts with you as the head of the household, and I think that is wonderful. The other thing I just wanted to say, too, is this is just my personal opinion. I'm not representing the Catholic Church here or Catholic teaching. This is just my personal opinion here. When you were talking about Emily having this aura, that's what you used, which is technically kind of a New Age term. How I look at that, Mark, is that your beautiful daughter, Emily, we are the temples of the Holy Spirit. What I believe is happening with Emily is the Holy Spirit's just shining. The Holy Spirit's just shining through her. And of course, that's going to be a magnet. Of course, people are going to be drawn to it. And absolutely, people will notice it. Because that's what it's meant to, what we're all meant to do. So I would just encourage others, we can learn a lot from your Emily, okay? Because we should be living our lives, in line with what God wants, so that Holy Spirit shines in us as well. So I just want to say, so many things you said, we could go on and on, but because of your call, Mark, and because of full phone lines and calls coming in, we definitely feel the need to continue this conversation into tomorrow. And so we just want to thank you because you're giving us more information that we can work on and start to apply in our own lives when we interact with others as well. What do you think, Jer?
I agree completely, Mark. Thank you so much. Thanks again for what you're doing in Catholic radio and great inspirational stuff that you shared today on the program. Thank you very, very much. And as Debbie said, we will go ahead and continue this topic tomorrow, do a part 2. So if you don't get on the program on the air today, feel free to call back tomorrow right at the start of the show. Tell Ryan, and Ryan will remember you. He probably writes the names down anyway, but he will put you at the front of the line for tomorrow's program. But I wanted to get at least to Margaret in Bowling Green, Kentucky, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Margaret. We are down to about 2.5 minutes. Sorry to keep you short, but we wanted to get you on today.
Hello, and thank you very much for taking my call.
Sure.
I had to call today because I had a brother that was Down syndrome, and he was the greatest blessing that our family ever had. I'm quite sure it was hard on Mom and Dad for the first few years, but they worked together. Many times, Mom would hand him to Dad thinking that he had quit breathing and that he wasn't going to make it. Dad would just pat him on the back and work with him and bring him right back. And he lived to be 44 years old. He was the greatest love of our life, the best evangelist I have ever run into. Is anytime he was with anybody, it was, we got to pray, we got to say the Our Father. He was evaluated at like 6, but he was much smarter than that. And it was just a great life. And there's another thing I need to bring before I get off the air. I have some friends, and I'm sure they wouldn't care if I share this with you. They are a family of 10, and they are now in Ukraine. They have just adopted 3 Down syndrome children, and they're going to be on their way home soon. And I love Down syndrome. I am so attracted to them that I have really sought them out in my life. Anytime I see a Down syndrome child, it's all I can do to keep from running up to them and hugging them. And people that have abortions, they don't know what they're missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
Just a wonderful blessing.
Margaret, can you give us your beautiful brother's first name? We would love to honor his life. It says you said 44 years he walked on this earth.
His name is Harold, or was Harold, and
Beautiful.
and I'm sure he and my mom are both saints right now. I mean, they're in heaven. God, I know. My dad too, but mostly my mom. She kept his cradle shaking for 2 years to keep him breathing because the doctors told her he won't live another week. He won't ever talk. He won't ever walk. And he did all those things.
Wow. Yeah, it does sound like he had saintly parents. You both did. And Margaret, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for telling us about that family that's in Ukraine adopting the 3 Down syndrome children. Because, sometimes it happens to parents and then they have to learn to adjust. And then you have also equally heroic people who actually, intentionally will adopt and take in children like that. Yeah. And you hit it right on the head, Margaret. Those who are not allowing their kids to come to birth and aborting them because of things like this, we really need to pray against that and pray that all families will welcome whatever God gives them by way of children.
Mm-hmm. And I put that family in our book, too. So thank
Good.
you, Margaret. Grace and Marie and Bernie and Ann and Yolanda and all the comments that came in. We will get to you tomorrow. We'll do a part 2. This is an important discussion. We're learning, we're growing in our faith, we're growing in our outlook and our attitude. That's the way to do it with the Take 2 family. You guys are awesome. Full participation. That's the way we like it. Right, Jer?
Yep. And Virginia, Sarah, and Guy, who sent some emails, we will do our best to get those on the air for you tomorrow here on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. So in the meantime, between now and tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day.